Hello, dear listener. I'm glad you're here. Make yourself as comfortable as you can. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. And allow the day to loosen its grip. You don't have to solve anything tonight. You don't have to go anywhere. For a little while, you can simply drift, breathe, and rest. I'll stay close and tell you a gentle story, slow as warm water, quiet as late sunlight, so you can relax and enjoy the calm. And maybe, if it feels right, let sleep arrive in its own unhurried way. The river is not in a hurry, and neither are you. It is late in the day, that tender part of summer afternoon when the sun has already done most of its shining, and now seems content to do it softly. The air is warm without being heavy, like a clean blanket just warmed on a windowsill. Light rests on everything rather than striking it, on the river's surface, on the pale trunks of trees along the bank, on the tips of reeds that lift and bend, as though the breeze is teaching them a slow, patient dance. Your boat is small and wooden, worn smooth in the places where hands have held it over the years. It carries the honest scent of sun-warmed timber, a faint sweetness of resin and old varnish. Here and there, tiny scratches catch the light like quiet memories. The boat sits low but steady, and the river holds it as if it knows exactly what to do, as if it has been waiting all day for this simple task, to carry you gently downstream. You are lying on your back in the bottom of the boat, supported by a thin cushion, or perhaps a folded jacket beneath your head. Your arms are relaxed by your sides, your legs stretched out. The wood beneath you gives a subtle, friendly creak when the river shifts under the hull. It is not the sharp complaint of something strained. It is the soft voice of a boat doing its work, speaking to itself in small syllables of timber and nail. Above you, the sky is wide and bright, though the brightness has softened into honey. Clouds drift slowly white, with edges that blur into the blue as though they are made of breath. Some clouds are long and thin, some rounded like the tops of distant mountains. You can watch them without effort, the way you might watch thoughts pass by when you are almost asleep, letting them come and go without grabbing them. The river moves in a steady glide, and the boat obeys. There is no engine, no paddle in motion, only the quiet push of the current. The feeling is like being carried by a hand you trust. The water slides along the hull with a gentle, continuous sound, a soft shushing that seems to smooth the inside of your chest. From the banks comes a faint chorus of summer life, grasses whispering against one another, a dry, papery rustle that rises and falls with each breath of wind. Sometimes a reed taps lightly against the side of the boat, tap, tap, like a polite knuckle at a door. Somewhere farther away, insects hum in the warm air, a thin, steady thread of sound that stitches the moment together. Sunlight makes patterns on the river. It breaks into 1,000 bright pieces, glints that appear and vanish as the surface ripples. These little flashes are never in one place for long. They are playful, but not distracting, like a smile you notice in passing. Occasionally, one bright reflection slips under the edge of the boat and trembles on the underside of the gunwale, a quiver of light that looks almost like a living thing. Your breathing is easy, in and out, the warm air moving into you, then leaving again. The air smells faintly of green of leaves and wet earth and sun-heated stones. It smells like summer being itself. The boat drifts past a bend where the river narrows slightly. The current gathers there, smooth and sure. The water's surface darkens under the shadow of overhanging branches, and the temperature seems to drop by a small, pleasant degree, like stepping into shade after walking in sunlight. The boat's wooden ribs make a quiet sound as it shifts, one soft creak, then silence again. You turn your head a little, just enough to see the shoreline without sitting up. Along the bank, grasses grow tall and thick, their blades thin and bright. Some of them lean over the water, and their tips skim the surface, drawing tiny lines that vanish immediately. There are clusters of wildflowers, small and pale, nodding as if they are sleepy too. A dragonfly appears, glimmering blue-green. It hovers near the boat for a moment, wings a blur, then darts away, tracing a sharp line across the calm. Its movement is quick, but the moment it leaves, the scene returns to its slow rhythm, like a pond settling after a pebble. The boat glides from shade back into sunlight. Warmth returns to your cheeks, to your forearms, to the bridge of your nose. The sun is not high now. It comes from a lower angle, slipping through gaps in the trees and laying long, quiet beams across the water. Each beam has dust motes in it, tiny specks turning lazily, as if they too are floating downstream. You rest one hand on the edge of the boat. Your fingers curl naturally over the wood. The timber feels warm and dry under your skin, and there is a faint grain you can trace without thinking. For a while, you simply lie there and watch the clouds, noticing how their shapes shift so slowly you can't quite tell. becomes another. A cloud that looked like a sail now looks like a sleeping animal. A cloud that was a smooth oval now has a bite taken out of it, leaving a scalloped edge. Time feels different on the river. It stretches and thins like sunlight drawn out across water. The day is still present, bright and real, but it has softened. The world seems less interested in urgency. Even the breeze seems to take its time, arriving gently and leaving the same way. Your mood is peaceful, not in a dramatic way, not like the sudden relief after something hard, but like the quiet contentment of being exactly where you are supposed to be. You have nothing to prove. Nothing is expected of you except to float and breathe. The river's surface is mostly smooth, but every now and then a small ripple passes, perhaps from a fish turning beneath, or from the faint tug of current meeting a stone. These ripples reach the boat and nudge it, and the boat responds with a soft rocking motion, just enough to remind you that you are being held in movement. The motion is soothing, like being rocked in a cradle. You let your right arm drift outward until your hand hovers over the water. Your fingertips meet the surface, and at once the river cools your skin. It is a clean, refreshing coolness that contrasts with the warm air. You trail your fingers lightly, not pressing down, just grazing the surface so the water slips between them in thin streams. Tiny droplets gather on your fingertips and glint in the sun, each droplet a miniature world reflecting sky and light. The sensation is simple and perfect. Water moving past your hand, gentle resistance. A soft sound as your fingers make a narrow wake. When you lift your hand again, the droplets cling for a moment before sliding down your knuckles and returning to the river. The boat continues to drift. Somewhere nearby, a bird calls one clear note, then another, then silence, as if it has said what it needed to say. The sound fades into the warm air and becomes part of it. The banks change gradually. In some places, the trees step back and the river widens, opening into a stretch where the sky feels even bigger. In other places, bushes lean close, their leaves glossy and dark, and the river becomes a corridor of green. In that corridor, the sounds shift. The rustle of grasses becomes more intimate, the hum of insects more noticeable, the water's voice slightly deeper where it moves under shade. You notice how the sunlight behaves differently in each section. In open water, it spreads out and dances in broad patterns. Under trees, it arrives in broken patches, coins of gold dropped on the surface, trembling as the leaves above flutter. Sometimes a patch of light catches the side of the boat, warming the wood and making it glow. The boat's faint creaking continues now, and then, never constant, always small. It is the sound of wood responding to water and weight, the sound of a simple structure doing what it was built to do. You find the sound comforting. It tells you that everything is stable, that the river is gentle, that you are safe. Your eyes blink slowly. You could close them for a while and still know what the world is doing. You could listen instead of look. The river would still carry you. The sun would still shine. The grasses would still whisper along the banks. And for a moment, you do close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the light becomes a warm orange glow. You can feel the boat's movement as a subtle shifting under your back. You can hear the water's soft shush, steady and even. You can hear the occasional whisper of reeds brushing one another on shore, like someone turning pages in a book very slowly. Your breathing remains calm. In and out, each breath a little deeper than the last, as if the warm air is inviting you to relax further. When you open your eyes again, the sky has changed slightly. Clouds have moved on, and new shapes have arrived. The sun's angle has shifted in a way that you can't measure, but can sense. The light is more golden now, and the river reflects it in longer streaks, like ribbons pulled across the surface. You lift your head just a little and glance toward the front of the boat. The bow points downstream, obedient to the current. The river ahead curves gently to the left. The far bank is lined with tall grasses that sway in unison, their motions slow and hypnotic. Beyond them, trees rise in layers, pale trunks, dark leaves, then the sky. You settle back again. There is no need to do anything else. The boat passes a patch of lilies near the edge of the water, their broad leaves floating like small rafts. Some leaves are glossy, catching bright highlights. Others are matte in the shade. A few pale flowers rise above them, delicate and calm, as though they are simply enjoying being here. The boat's wake is so slight, it barely disturbs them. Water slides around their stems and continues on. A fish breaks the surface nearby with a soft plop. The sound is gentle, like a small pebble dropped into a bowl. Ripples spread outward in perfect circles, widening and thinning until they become invisible. The river returns to smoothness without fuss. You smile a little, not because anything funny happened, but because it feels good to be witness to quiet things. There is a particular kind of happiness in noticing the world when it is not performing. This river is not trying to impress anyone. It is simply moving, carrying light and shadow along with it. The warm air brushes your face. The breeze is light enough that it doesn't push, only touches. It lifts a few strands of hair at your temples, then lets them fall back. The scent of sun-warmed grasses comes stronger for a moment, then fades again, replaced by the fresher smell of water. You trail your hand in the river again, this time a little deeper. Water curls around your fingers and palm. The coolness spreads up your wrist. You can feel the current's direction, steady and reliable, as if the river has a quiet intention. When you pull your hand back, your skin gleams with water, and in the sunlight, it looks like glass. Droplets fall into the boat with tiny taps. A few land on the wood and beat up, round and bright, before they soak in or roll away. The boat responds with the faintest creak, as though acknowledging the small change in weight, then settles again. The river carries you past a sandy patch on the bank where the grass grows thinner. The sand is pale and warm-looking, speckled with small stones. Near the water's edge, the sand is darker where it is damp, and it has the smooth, packed look of a place where water has recently touched. A single footprint is visible there, old enough that its edges have softened. It doesn't matter whose it was. It feels like a reminder that life passes through quietly, leaving only gentle signs. Above, a cloud slides into place that looks like a long, slow wave. You watch it for a while, letting your mind follow its curve. It's easy to imagine the sky itself is another river, with clouds drifting like boats. The idea makes your body feel even heavier in the best way, anchored and relaxed. The boat carries you, the river carries the boat, and the day carries the light across everything. You are nested in layers of gentle motion. As the afternoon deepens, the light becomes softer still. Shadows along the banks lengthen. In the shade of a tree, the water looks almost black, but if you watch closely, you can see it is still full of reflected sky, still moving. The dark is not empty, it is simply another color of calm. The sounds remain small and comforting. Grasses whisper, insects hum. Occasionally, a leaf drops from a branch and lands on the river with the faintest tick. river ahead opens into a stretch where the water moves very evenly, as if it has smoothed itself for you. Here, the sunlight makes a broad path of gold across the surface, a shimmering lane that seems to lead somewhere peaceful. The boat drifts into that lane, and for a moment you are surrounded by brightness. The glare is not harsh. It is warm and kind. It makes you squint slightly. Then your eyes adjust, and you can see the patterns in the light, how each small ripple breaks the reflection into moving fragments. It looks like the river is covered in countless tiny mirrors, all tilting together, all reflecting the sun in their own quiet way. You listen again to the boat. There is a soft creak at the stern, then a pause. Another creak near your shoulder where a plank meets a rib. The sounds are spaced out like gentle punctuation. The boat is not silent, but it is not noisy. It is simply present, and its presence feels like reassurance. You shift slightly to get more comfortable. The movement makes the boat respond with a small, slow rock. The river absorbs it, calms it, carries on. The cushion under your head compresses and supports you. Your muscles let go a little more, as if they have been waiting all day for permission to relax. There is no pressure to think about anything else. Yet thoughts may come, and if they do, they feel different here. They arrive like clouds, soft-edged, passing by. A memory might drift in, then drift out. A plan might appear, then dissolve. None of it needs action right now. The river does not demand decisions. You look at the sky and imagine placing each thought onto a cloud and watching it float away. The thought is still yours, but it does not need to stay close. It can move on, just like the river moves on, just like the afternoon moves on. On the bank, a cluster of tall grasses leans closer to the water, and as the boat passes, you can hear their dry, gentle rustle more clearly. It sounds like soft applause, not for you exactly, but for the day itself, for the simple fact of sun and water and wind meeting in this moment. A reed touches the boat's side and slides along it, making a faint scraping sound, very light, very brief. Then it's gone. The boat remains steady. The river's surface closes behind it as if nothing happened. You trail your fingers again, letting them skim the water's surface. This time you draw a slow curve, and you watch the wake you create, a thin line of disturbance that spreads and softens. The line catches the sunlight and glows for a second before it disappears. The river forgives every touch immediately, returning to smoothness with quiet patience. The warmth of the air continues to wrap around you. It is the kind of warmth that makes you feel safe, like a room that has been lit all day and now holds the sun's heat in its walls. The summer day has stored warmth in the water, in the trees, in the boat's wood, and it releases it slowly now, in a steady, gentle way. The river carries you past another bend, and in the distance, you can see a low hill beyond the trees. Its outline is soft, hazy with heat. The sky above it is pale blue, deepening slightly higher up. Clouds continue their slow travel, rearranging themselves without hurry. A butterfly flutters near the bank, yellow and small. It moves in a wandering line, stopping briefly on a flower, then lifting again. Its wings open and close like a tiny fan. You watch it until it disappears into the tall grass, swallowed by green. The boat drifts onward, and the world seems to widen again. Perhaps the river runs through a more open area now, with fewer trees leaning overhead. The sunlight is more direct, and the reflections on the water become brighter. The river's voice changes subtly too, a little more airy, as if the water is speaking in a slightly higher tone when it is under open sky. You breathe in the warm air and taste summer in it. There's a hint of pollen, a faint sweetness from blossoms you can't see, and always the clean, mineral scent of water. Each breath feels like it's rinsing your mind. The boat's wooden sides are warm against your arm. You run your fingertips along the edge for a moment, noticing the slight unevenness where the grain rises. The sensation grounds you, keeps you gently connected to the physical world, even as your thoughts become dreamlike. A distant sound reaches you, maybe laughter far away, or a voice carried across the fields. But it is so faint it doesn't pull you out of your peace. It's just another layer of life, existing at its own distance, not demanding anything. It fades again, leaving the river's quieter sounds in the foreground. You notice the way your body feels, heavy and loose, like a towel warmed in the sun. Your legs are relaxed, your shoulders low. Your face feels soft. Even your hands, when they rest, feel open rather than clenched. The boat keeps drifting, and the sun continues its slow descent. The light turns richer, more amber, as though the day is steeping like tea. Shadows along the bank lengthen and become more defined, but they are still gentle. The contrast between sun and shade is not sharp, it is smooth, like a gradient. As you pass under a tree that stretches its branches partly over the river, leaves cast shifting patterns on the boat. Dappled light moves across your shirt, across your forearms, across the wood, creating temporary shapes that change with each flutter of leaves. The patterns are hypnotic. You can watch them without thinking, and your mind becomes quiet. A soft breeze moves through the branches, and the leaves respond with a sound like a sigh. The river beneath answers with its steady shush. The boat's wood adds its faint creak. Together, these sounds form a simple lullaby. Wind, water, wood. You close your eyes again, and the lullaby continues. Behind your eyelids, you can still sense the motion. The boat rises and falls slightly over small changes in current. The movement is so gentle, it feels like being held in a slow breath. You imagine the river as a long ribbon unrolling beneath you, smooth and cool, carrying you over the earth without effort. If a thought comes now, it comes slowly. Perhaps you think about how long the river has been here, moving day after day, season after season. Perhaps you think about how the sunlight changes the same water into different colors every hour. The thought is not heavy. It is simply interesting, like noticing something beautiful and then letting it be. You open your eyes and see a cloud that looks like a soft, white mountain range. Its peaks are rounded, its edges glowing. The sun is lower now, and the cloud's underside has a faint hint of pink, barely noticeable but present, like a blush. The river's surface reflects that color in tiny fragments, scattered among the gold. It makes the water look even more alive, though it remains calm. The glints shift constantly, but the overall feeling stays steady. You lift your hand and touch the water again. This time, you let your fingers sink just enough to feel the currents pull more clearly. It is gentle but certain, like a quiet hand taking yours. You allow it to slide past your skin. You feel the coolness, the smoothness, the way the river never stops moving, yet never seems to rush. You draw your hand back and rest it on your stomach. Your palm is cool and damp for a moment, then the warm air begins to dry it. The contrast feels pleasant, like stepping out of a lake and feeling the sun on your skin. The boat drifts past a patch where the bank rises slightly, and the grasses there are shorter, more sparse, revealing the dark soil beneath. A few stones line the edge, rounded and pale. The water near them is clearer, and you can see down a little way greenish depths, shifting comes from the boat as it turns slightly, aligning itself with a subtle change in current. The sound is almost like a slow stretch, like wood settling into the shape the river asks of it. You find it soothing, this little conversation between boat and water. You notice, too, the sound of the shoreline grasses, how it changes when the breeze changes direction. When the wind comes from upstream, the rustle is more continuous, as if the grasses are all speaking at once. When the wind comes from the side, the rustle arrives in waves, one patch of grass answering another, like a call and response. It is delicate, but once you notice it, it becomes a gentle pattern you can listen for. The sun continues its slow descent. It is still bright, but it is no longer overhead. Its light comes from the side, and everything seems more textured. The bark on tree trunks shows more detail. The ripples on the water stand out more clearly. Even the boat's wood grain seems to deepen, its lines more visible in the slanting light. You feel gratitude, simple and quiet, for this time. Gratitude that you can lie here and do nothing. Gratitude that the river exists, that the sky is open above you, that the day has offered you warmth. The boat glides into another shaded stretch, and the temperature shifts slightly again. The shade is cooler, but not cold, a relief. The air under the trees smells different, more earthy, more green, with a hint of dampness from moss or wet roots. You inhale, and the scent makes you feel even more grounded. In the shade, the glints on the water become fewer, but the water itself looks deeper. When a patch of sunlight breaks through, it is more dramatic, like a spotlight on a stage. But the stage is quiet. There are no performers except leaves and light. A small bird flits from branch to branch above the river, and you hear the soft flutter of wings. It pauses somewhere hidden in foliage and sings a brief phrase. The notes are clear and bright. Then the bird falls silent again. The silence afterward feels even softer. You adjust your head slightly on the cushion. The boat responds with a slow rock and a faint creak. Then stillness again, though stillness here always includes movement, water moving, air moving, light moving. The river carries you past a place where the bank is thick with reeds. Their stems are tall and straight, and their feathery tops sway gently as the boat passes. Some reeds bend and brush each other, creating a more pronounced rustle, a sound like gentle rain made of dry leaves. The sound surrounds you briefly, then fades as you drift onward. A few reeds lean over far enough that their tips touch the water and draw tiny circles as they move. Each circle expands, meets another, and disappears. The river is full of these small, temporary patterns, and watching them makes your mind feel quiet and spacious. You look back toward where you have come from. The river behind you curves and disappears between trees. The wake of the boat is almost non-existent. The water has already smoothed itself. It is as though you were never there, except for the fact that you remember being there. That, too, is calming the sense that you can pass through the world gently, leaving it untroubled. The sun is lower now, and its light has turned even warmer. The edges of the trees glow. The grasses along the bank look like they have thin lines of fire on their tips where the light hits. The boat's wood takes on a richer color, like polished amber. You let your eyes drift from cloud to cloud. Some clouds are now slightly tinted, soft peach, pale gold. The sky is still blue, but it has begun to deepen, becoming less like midday and more like evening. It is still very much day, but it is day leaning toward rest. Your body follows the sky's example. It leans toward rest too. Your eyelids feel heavier, your limbs more relaxed. The boat's gentle rocking becomes more noticeable, not because it has increased, but because you are paying attention to it in a softer way, the way you might notice the rhythm of a song when you are lying down. You reach out and touch the water once more. This time, you do it almost absent-mindedly, like a child trailing fingers along a fence as they walk. The water is still cool, still smooth. It slides past, and you feel its steady, reassuring movement. When you lift your hand, you watch the droplets fall. They catch the sun and turn bright for a fraction of a second before they disappear. Each droplet makes a tiny sound when it lands, soft taps on the boat's wood, or tiny plips into the river. The sounds are so small they might not matter to anyone else, but to you they are perfect. They are details that anchor you in calm reality, details that give your mind something gentle to hold. The river continues to carry you. It does not ask where you are going. It does not demand that you steer. It simply moves, and you move with it, and that is enough. A breeze comes again, slightly stronger this time, and it cools your skin where it is damp. It also moves the grasses along the bank more noticeably, and their rustling becomes a little louder for a moment, like a soft wave of sound. Leaves overhead flutter, and patches of sunlight on the water tremble. responds with a quiet creak as it shifts under the breeze's touch, then settles. You feel the breeze pass, and when it does, the world returns to its previous softness. You realize how safe you feel. There is nothing threatening here. The river is calm. The boat is steady. The day is warm. You are simply resting, supported by water and wood and air. If you want, you can imagine that each sound is smoothing you from the inside out. The river's shush smooths your thoughts. The grasses whisper smooths your nerves. The creak of the boat's wood smooths your muscles. Everything is slow and kind. The sun edges closer to the horizon, though you cannot see the horizon directly through the trees. You can tell by the way the light changes, by the way the gold becomes deeper, by the way shadows stretch. The day is not ending abruptly. It is easing into evening. The river passes another open stretch, and the sky above looks even larger. Clouds are fewer now, scattered like soft islands. The sun's reflection stretches longer across the water, and the glints become more concentrated, forming a bright trail that shimmers ahead of you. You lie still, watching, breathing. In and out, the warm air feels like it's carrying you too, not just the river. Your chest rises and falls gently, matching the boat's subtle rocking. A sense of drowsiness begins to gather at the edges of your awareness. It is not sudden. It comes like the evening light, gradually, warmly, with no resistance required. You welcome it. The boat's wood creaks once, a little louder than before, as if a plank has shifted into a more comfortable place. Then quiet again. The sound makes you feel strangely cared for, as if the boat itself is settling you in. On the bank, grasses sway and whisper. The sound is steady, like a hush meant to soothe. Insects continue their soft hum, and somewhere a bird calls again. But this time the call is lower, more relaxed, as if the bird is also preparing for evening. You glance at your hand resting on the boat. The skin has a golden tint in the low sun. Your fingers are relaxed, slightly curled. There is nothing you need to hold tightly. The boat holds you. The river holds the boat. The day holds the river in its light. You watch a small cloud drift across the sun's path, and for a moment the brightness dims. The river's glints soften. The air feels slightly cooler. Then the cloud moves on, and the sunlight returns, warm and gentle, like a hand returning to your shoulder. The boat continues downstream, and you continue to rest. You may not even be thinking in full sentences now. boats drifting. These images do not demand interpretation. They simply exist, and you can float among them. You touch the water once more, very lightly, just the tips of 2 fingers. It is like checking in with the river, like saying hello again. The water answers by slipping past your skin, cool and calm, and you lift your hand and let it rest. The sunlight grows deeper, and the colors of the world shift. Greens become richer, shadows become bluer. The river's surface becomes a blend of gold and dark. Everything looks like a painting that is still being painted, the brush moving slowly across the scene. You feel the boat's gentle rocking, and you realize it is almost like breathing. Rock forward, rock back. Not perfectly regular, but always soothing. Your own breathing matches it without effort. If you are listening to this story at night, perhaps in your bed, you can imagine yourself here in the boat. You can imagine the warmth of the late summer air. You can imagine the boat under you, steady and kind. You can imagine the soft creak of wood, the whisper of grasses, the shush of water. You can imagine looking up at clouds that drift without urgency. You can imagine the sunlight glinting on the river like scattered coins. You can imagine trailing your fingers in the water and feeling its coolness, then lifting your hand and watching droplets sparkle before they fall. The river keeps moving, and you don't have to do anything to make it happen. The current is doing the work. The world is doing its gentle, reliable turning. In the distance, the light becomes even softer. Perhaps there is a place ahead where the river widens into a calm pool, where the current slows and becomes even smoother. Perhaps there is a bend where the trees open and you can see more sky. But you don't need to know. You can trust that wherever the river goes, it will go calmly. Wherever you go, you will be carried gently. Your eyelids feel heavy now. You blink slowly, and each blink lasts a little longer. The sky above is still bright, but it is the brightness of late day, the kind that feels like it is already half dream. The boat creaks softly again, and the sound seems to come from far away, like something you hear when you are drifting towards sleep. The grasses whisper, and their whisper is like a lullaby in a language older than words. The river shushes, steady and patient, as if it is saying over and over, "It's all right, it's all right, it's all right." You let your body sink into the boat. You let your breath become slow and deep. You let the world hold you. The river carries you onward in golden light, through warmth and shade, through whispers and glints, through the gentle music of summer. And you rest, quiet, safe, unhurried, watching clouds when your eyes are open, feeling water when your hand reaches down, listening to grasses and wood and the soft voice of the current. There is nothing else you need to do. There is nowhere else you need to be. Only this, the boat, the quiet river, the warm late day air, and your peaceful drifting rest. And as the light continues to soften, as the river continues to glide, you may find that sleep begins to feel natural, like a boat that has been floating all along, finally reaching the calmest part of the stream. If your eyes close, it's okay. If your thoughts fade, it's okay. The river will keep carrying you gently, and the summer air will stay warm, and everything will remain quiet and kind as you drift and drift